You're welcome back to Sunday Breakfast right here on ChannelOne TV with me, Inu Safo. We're going into our health segment now and we're talking about thyroid goiter. Did I get it right? With our guest, Dr. Kalsum Zakaria Adam, a public health practitioner and specialist maxillofacial surgeon. You don't know how long I've been waiting to call her that, maxillofacial surgeon. Doc, how are you doing? It's been a while.
Very well, yeah.
It's been a very long while, but we're glad to have you back, join us for this all-important conversation. If you have any concerns or any questions to ask as the conversation goes along, do send them to the WhatsApp number 0204 447 033, 0204 447 033. Alternatively, you can use the hashtag Sunday Breakfast across all social media platforms. My handle, _S, or Jude's handle, at Mensa Duncan, the Mensa without an H, and we would do well to ask Dr. for you. Doc, we're talking about thyroid goiter. Did I pronounce it well?
Yeah, you did.
What's thyroid goiter?
All right. So the thyroid gland, I'll start from there. The thyroid gland is a little gland that is found within the neck. So it's just around where your Adam's apple is. We are all familiar where Adam's apple is.
Why is it even called
Especially
that? Is it like a science? Is that the actual name?
No.
There's a name for it.
It's the thyroid notch.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's just a cartilage just around.
So who started calling it Adam's apple?
I'm sure just to differentiate because it's more prominent in males compared to females. Possibly that is how we call it the Adam's apple. Okay, so it's just a gland that is just around that area, the thyroid cartilage. Okay, it's strapped. It's bilobed, so it's like a butterfly. Okay, it's a little butterfly down in here, and it's made up of two lobes, so a left and then a right, and then it's connected by an isthmus. So then you have that butterfly shaped down there. And it's very important because most of the time it plays a very vital role. It produces what we call thyroid hormones. So our thyroid hormones are very important for our daily metabolic functions within the body. It does so many things within the body. One of them is the fact that it helps with it controls your basal metabolic functions within the body, where it helps regulate the consumption of your oxygen and then also the production of energy that you need for the day-to-day activities of your cells and then repair of your cells and what have you. So that's one of the things that it does. Another thing is that it also helps to maintain other systems within the body. So your cardiovascular system like this, it helps, it plays a vital role in keeping your heart rate and also helping with you having an optimized cardiac output. When you talk about your central nervous system, it plays also a very vital role there. It helps with you being alert, and then also it helps with you being, it helps with cognitive development, especially even with neonates when they are born. It plays a very vital role in the growth of the neonates, especially at the fetal level, and then also when just prenatally. Okay, it helps with the growth of the brain. So if you do not have it, sometimes you end up having stunted growth.
Okay.
Okay. And then also, when you talk about musculoskeletal system, that is your muscles and then your bones, it also plays a vital role there, where it helps with maintaining your muscle tone and then your reflexes as well. And then it also has a role when it comes to your hormonal levels in terms of reproduction, and then also in terms of maintaining your menstrual cycle. Okay, so that is, yes, just in a bit to tell you what the thyroid hormones do.
Interesting.
To help maintain our body.
Talking about goiter, right? You know, growing up, it was almost like the picture they show you when they say if you don't have enough salt or you don't take enough salt, you could suffer from
Yes.
So
yes,
is
that's
it like
true.
a deficiency you get if you don't have enough salt in your body, or it's
Okay, so I'll go into it.
okay?
So I have tackled what it does, what the hormone does. But now, how is the hormone produced?
Okay.
And when, when do you have problems with the whole gland, and then how does it manifest?
Okay.
So that's when your salt thing comes in. But it's not exactly the salt, but the iodine within the salt.
Okay.
So that's how come we always advocate that people should consume iodinated salt.
To iodinated
Exactly,
salt.
because you need the iodine within the salt
Okay.
to help in the production.
So it's not just
of
any
the
salt.
No, not the
Iodinated
rocky.
salt.
You know, usually the local salts are the rocky
ones.
ones. Usually they don't have
The
iodine
iodine.
within it.
So the refined
So we
ones.
usually would want people to take the powdered ones that are sold on the market. Those ones you know for sure that there's iodine within it.
Okay.
So how does the hormone come about? So you need your iodine, as you have mentioned, and then you have, so it's something that starts from the brain. So you have your hypothalamus in the brain. So the hypothalamus would produce something we call the TRH. Okay, so it's a hormone that would then alert the pituitary, the anterior pituitary, which is also found within the brain. And then that will produce something we call the TSH, that's the thyroid stimulating hormone. So now this thyroid stimulating hormone will then alert the thyroid gland, the butterfly shaped gland, okay, within the neck, to start producing the hormone, the thyroid hormones, when they are low, when the levels of these hormones are low within your body. So that's the T3 and then the T4. So then it stimulates it and then it produces it. It is used within the body. And also, it's the production of these hormones also has a negative feedback on the whole process, so that it can stop at some point, so that you don't end up having low levels or higher levels that you do not need. Okay. So as soon as it is produced and then it is used, once it gets to certain levels that is overproduction, it's able to have a negative feedback on the on your TSH, okay, which is your anterior pituitary, and then the whole process stops. So it has its own automatic way of being produced and automatic way of you reducing it, okay. But now, when do we get a goiter? We get a goiter when the gland itself is enlarged. How does the gland get enlarged? The gland gets enlarged from so many ways. So that you can have an enlarged gland, but then when you go and then check the person's thyroid levels, that's your T3 and then your T4, you notice that slightly is normal. Okay. So that's euthyroid. Then there are cases where when you go and then you check, the levels are so low. Okay, and then there are also cases where when you go and check, the levels are very high. So we call it hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, and then euthyroid, depending on various causes. Okay, one of it is the deficiency that we spoke about. So then when there's deficiency in the iodine that you need to produce the hormone, what happens is that your thyroid stimulating hormone that I mentioned from the brain, from the your anterior pituitary, would keep, it would think that, okay, maybe it's because the cells within this thyroid gland, they are not much, they are not many. That's why we are not getting the hormone. So then it will continue to stimulate, and then cause the gland, the cells of the gland to multiply. Okay, then it becomes a lot. Then it enlarges, it hypertrophies, and then it becomes enlarged, and then that you can end up getting a goiter. Another could be that it's just some infection that must have started within the gland and then caused it to undergo the enlargement, and then you end up with the goiter. It could also be that, yes, you have a cancer may have started within the gland, and then that is also what is causing, or a cyst may have started within. So there are various causes of you getting an enlarged thyroid gland, which we normally would say a goiter. Okay. So the signs and symptoms associated with it depends on the levels of the hormone that you have. Remember I mentioned that once you have an enlarged gland, it doesn't mean that it's always high levels of the gland, of the hormones that you have. It's likely there are times that you have very low levels.
Yeah.
Very low levels, meaning that now your brain is stimulating and causing it, thinking that, okay, let me try and then rather stimulate the gland so that it becomes larger, so that possibly if there are many, we'll have the optimal quantity of the hormone that we need for the functions that we need it for.
Wow.
You get it? So those are some of the things, and then it depends on whether it's low or it's high, then you have symptoms. And the symptoms can either be localized symptoms or systemic symptoms. Okay?
Science is so complicated.
So, oh no, it's not complicated.
So
the localized symptoms are the ones that we obviously would see.
Yeah.
That's if it is very enlarged and that you can see it. So the first thing will be what? It will be less aesthetic. People may even shy away from going into social gatherings
So
because
the
of how
stereotype,
people, yes, because of how people would look at them. Okay. Another would be the more serious local symptoms would be that it may affect the phonation of the patient. So the patients may have hoarseness of voice. That means that it is either compressing. Those are the compressive symptoms. It's either it's compressing on your vocal cords, or even more sinister problem may be that it may be affecting the nerve that is supplying your vocal cords or your voice box. Okay, so that can also give you an idea of whether it's a malignancy or not. Another local factor could be that maybe anytime the person
When you say malignancy,
tries,
that's like cancer, right?
yes.
All right, cool. Yes.
Yeah. So anytime the person maybe tries to lie down, lie supine on their back, they may end up causing what we call difficulty breathing. So we call it dyspnea. Okay, they may end up becoming, or they end up not being able to breathe without any difficulty. So difficulty in breathing, that's dyspnea. Another could be that it may affect swallowing, because you know your esophagus is just behind where it's located, so it may compress and then you may end up having that difficulty, we call it dysphagia, okay, difficulty swallowing. So those are some of the local symptoms that you may have. But the more serious ones may be the systemic ones. So the systemic ones depend on the levels of the hormones that you have. If you have hyperthyroidism, and even that, you can have toxic symptoms and then the non-toxic ones. Okay. So if you have hyperthyroidism would affect remember from the beginning I mentioned its function, the function of the hormone on each of your systems. Now, if you have hyperthyroidism, that means that you have excess of the hormone within your body. So if you have excess of this hormone within your body, it means that it's going to affect every part of you. You are going to have everything in excess. Okay. So it's likely that it may affect, because it affects your basal metabolic rate, you may end up having catabolism much more than you should have. So you end up losing weight, excessive loss of weight. Okay. The other thing that could happen is that aside you losing weight, likely that it may affect your cognitive function, as I mentioned. It may also affect your eyes. You may end up having, if you have the hyperthyroidism, another autoimmune form of it, we call Graves' disease. So if you have Graves' disease, you notice that the person may end up having something we call exophthalmos. Exophthalmos means that your eyes will now be protruding, okay, because it affects the connective tissue and then the other cells within the eye. So you end up having this exophthalmos. So it's like your eyes are protruding, okay? And even the eyelids will lag behind. Usually when you are asked to close your eyes, the eyeballs will roll. Once the eyeballs roll, then you have your eyelids following to close up. But then in this case, you notice that the eyelids will be lagging behind. So we call it lid lag and then lid retraction. Okay, the other thing could also be that your hair will start becoming thinner. You know, usually we know that once your hair is thin, we are thinking about cancer or something.
Yeah.
But then something like an autoimmune disease that is affecting the thyroid, causing you to have a toxic thyroid, can also mimic that. You get it? So it's very important that you are able to think along those lines to be able to make a diagnosis.
No, are there any treatments available?
Yes, there are a lot of treatments available depending on the type. So whether you have very high levels or you have low levels, there are treatments available. First of all, you need to investigate. So the first investigation would be that you would want to check the person's blood levels to be able to tell the levels of this hormone. Once you're able to ascertain the levels of the hormone, you'll be able to tell where the person is. Then you can go ahead and then do other imaging modalities. The imaging modalities will be you do an ultrasound. The ultrasound will tell you the type of enlargement that you have. Sometimes it's diffuse. It's diffuse in the sense that the enlargement is all over. You remember I mentioned there are two lobes with an isthmus. So if it's diffuse, that means that it's even all over. But then if you have multilodular, then you have nodules within the thing. So you need to be able to ascertain that as well. That's you can get with your ultrasound. There are certain times that if you detect that it's a malignancy, by doing maybe a biopsy will be you do a fine needle aspiration cytology where you take a little bit of it and then you go to the lab and then look at the cells and then see, is it malignant, is it not malignant, and all of that. If you are able to ascertain that, you would be able to go ahead and then do certain other investigations, like do an MRI or do a CT scan. That will help you know the extent of spread. Okay, that's if it's a malignancy, but usually they are not malignant. Okay, so those are the ways to investigate. Once you have investigated, you can go ahead and do your treatment. So treatments would have to do with, most of the time, if it's a goiter which is not toxic, you would want to go ahead and then remove it.
So that's
you would want surgery. To go ahead and then, yes, do surgery to remove the lesion. And then there are other times that if you have very high levels, then you may have to give certain medications to normalize the levels first. And if the gland is enlarged, then you can go ahead after and then do your surgery.
I'm guessing if it's a goiter.
There are times too that you can, yes, there are times that you can actually even use radio iodine to take care of it.
I'm guessing that if it's a goiter, then it will be a very delicate surgical process.
Yes.
Is that really the case?
Oh, definitely, because of where it is located. If it's located within the neck, you know the neck is a small area, you have all your vessels there, you have all your great vessels and all of that. You have some nerves associated, your recurrent laryngeal nerves, that also would supply your vocal cords that help with you to phonate. So it is definitely a delicate surgery that needs to be done. But I mean, we have well-trained surgeons who are able to handle it. So it's not a problem at all.
Except that in the diagnosis stage, if you have to go through it, you don't have an MRI and CT scan at range at least. it's broken down. And for 2 years, they can't be bothered, right? So unfortunate. So unfortunate.
Does it present itself differently in women, or it's the same across board?
Yes, so it depends. So for the Graves' disease like this, which is the autoimmune, it's commoner in women. Okay. Research has shown that it's commoner in women, at least I think about 9 to 1 or so. So it's more commoner in women. And once you have the Graves' disease, that's what I mentioned, you would have the typical eye signs, the toxic signs, where you see that the person has this gaze, okay, and then the eyes are protruding, you know, and then sometimes you see it's misdiagnosed, and such patients will end up in the eye clinics thinking that it's something related to the eye.
Right.
You get it. But then when you thoroughly investigate, you would be able to tell that, oh, it's because their thyroid hormones are high because of an autoimmune disease. That is what is causing or manifesting in the eye. Then you can give appropriate treatments. So those are some of the things. So we need to be able to think about it, know about it, so that if possibly you're thinking maybe you have a heart condition, or you're thinking that now you have palpitations anytime you're walking, you've lost weight, okay, most of the time you'll be thinking something cancer, but we should also think about it. And then because there are times that you may not even have the whole enlarged goiter there, but then it is already manifesting in these forms. We need to think about it to be able to catch it. and have it.
Can it go away on its
treated.
own?
No, it can't. Once the enlargement has happened, the enlargement is there, you would see it is obvious. Okay, so you just need to be able to tell, okay, whatever that is causing the enlargement, is it still there? Can I control it? If you're able to control it, fine. Then subsequently, you can go ahead and then do the cosmesis aspect of it, where you take it out. Then the patient should be fine from that point on. So it's very important. People need to know about it. And I know a lot of people are scared when it comes to surgery. You don't want to go into surgery, you know. Some people will say that I'll keep it like that and then even go, But then it's important. That's why we are raising the awareness, so that people get to know about it. It can be treated. Yes, it can be treated. And these surgeries, a lot of people come in and then the surgeries are done for them without any or very minimal complications.
Doc,
and it's important.
Very important. And that is why you're even here to talk about it. We are so grateful for your time as always.
Thank you.
You know, we missed you on the show and we are glad that you're back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Still helping us with some very important education on this.
Yeah.
Also, whatever you brought for us, we'll be coming for it.
Definitely, definitely I will.
Amazing. Dr. Kalsum. Sorry, I'm
don't worry, it's fine.
Zakaria Adam, you know, helping us through a conversation around our thyroid glands, goiter, treatment, symptoms, all of that and more. Will be up on our YouTube account, ChannelOne TV. If you missed it, you can go back and watch for yourself.